A lot to talk about today, folks. Today, we are talking about this whole proposal, this whole idea that everybody is talking about getting rid of property taxes nationwide. Now, that's an interesting proposal. Now, that's fantastic for homeowners. Now, is it fair to say those who don't own homes are not as financially well off? Well, I don't know. I've seen a lot of successful multi-millionaires. I went to Ty Lopez's $100 million mansion, and the dude is renting it. And I agreed it's a good idea to rent it. So the idea of it only helps the rich isn't fully true, but is it mostly true? Like, think about it. If you, in fact, own a home, wouldn't we argue more times than not? Maybe just human logic would agree they do better off than those who don't own a home. I don't know. But now, if you own a house, that could be ranging from what? $1,000 to $10,000 plus a year. But then, where are they going to get the money to fulfill what they would have fulfilled, to pay for what they should have paid from the revenue they were collecting from property taxes? Isn't this the core question? I remember talking to our state treasurer, Fiona Mall, here in the state of California, that, oh, by the way, sure gets a lot of heat, and I don't blame them from the heat. All I'm saying is that I asked a simple question: what type of income goes through your state office at the state treasury office? Her response was $3 trillion. Everything goes through her office, whether it's property tax, sales tax, or full on income tax. All that money goes through her office, and they look over $3 trillion. That is the fourth largest economy in the world. And that's after all these people, all this mass exodus is leaving California. You have people that are leaving for political reasons or cost of living reasons. You've now had ICE bragging about getting people deported out of California and out throughout the whole country as well. Well, these people, yeah, sure, they may collect an income that's tax free, but a lot of them are reinvesting into the economy. These are people that still need to eat, still need to live. So when you take a look at the proposal of no property tax, I just want to spend today to talk about if that's even a realistic option. Doesn't matter where you are in the country, but I'm sure the blue states would love this with high property tax. But what happens to the revenue? Because you see, there are three core parts of revenue that comes through. The first one, as I mentioned earlier, is, if it's applicable, state income taxes. So Nevada doesn't have it, Washington State doesn't have it, Texas doesn't have it, Florida doesn't have it. There's a lot of states that, in fact, don't have it. So for those people, they only get income from two main sources. Remember, main sources. There are still government application fees and little nuanced things here and there. But at the end of the day, majority of the income comes from state income tax. It comes from sales tax. There are states like Oregon that doesn't do that, and a few others. And then there is good old fashioned property tax. And sometimes you'll see in states with no state taxes, such as a Texas or a Florida and a Nevada, that has higher than normal property taxes. You get the extreme blue states that have high state taxes, high sales taxes, and high property taxes. So I just thought, let's go over some of the top five of these and see if this proposal could actually make sense. But then here's the thing: if they're really thinking that a lot of this income comes to the United States of America, let alone the states, and it's based on what, tariff revenue and other forms of revenue, well, let's see how much they would have to increase other type of taxes to fulfill that gap. By the way, folks, if you're just joining me, you're listening to Gabriel Shahin, certified financial planner, and your host of More Knowledge, More Wealth here on every week. And we're talking about all important topics of personal finance. And today I thought, hey, what the hey? Let's talk about property taxes and let's see if this bill, if this proposal is realistic. So I thought, hey, headquarters here being in California, let's discuss to see how much revenue was received for the state of California a couple years back, 23 to 24. Because remember, a lot of people's property tax comes into the fall and you pay it over 2 years. So the state of California has almost $100 billion of property tax revenue. Yeah, there's a reason they say it's high. So that is very, very high. So that is a 7% increase from a previous year. And that's really just a big part of the income. So then I'm like, okay, tell me, AI, what are the top 5 states that pays in property tax? Number one is California. Number two is Texas, between 80 to 85 billion. Keep in mind, they have no state tax. So I'd be very curious what happens if, in fact, you no longer pay property tax. New York, 70 to 75 billion. Florida, 50 to 55. Illinois, 45 to 50 billion. So these are the top 5. So now you have to think, as when you look at those states, you have 2 of the 5 states do not have actual income taxes. So does that mean a majority of their income has to come from where? You guessed it. It has to come from sales tax. Now, when you look at sales tax, most of the places that you guys live in, you buy something for $1 or 99 cents, you can't just give them a dollar bill and get a penny back. Most of the time, they have sales tax. Like I said, one of the most popular places is Oregon. Oregon, in fact, you buy something for 99 cents, you give a dollar, they'll give you a penny back. Most places, it ranges between 7 and 10+%. So if you buy something for a dollar, to keep it simple, that's $1.10 is what you're going to pay for it. We all understand that concept. So I thought, hey, let's do some analysis here and see what are the top 10 states that pay the most of sales tax. Interesting enough, number one, California. Man, don't you hear people say it's an expensive place to live? It sure seems like that's the case. So you have 60 to 65 billion dollars. That is a 2023 estimate, and that as an average of 7.25% of the state sales tax. Now that's combined. You have to add roughly an additional 1.5% of add-ons, of combined add-ons, which in some areas up to 10.5%, a lot of it in Los Angeles City, let alone the county. And so this is a generate revenue that's from a 40 million people population, robust economy, high consumer spending in cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco, plus a broad tax to secure its top spot. So yes, that is a substantial amount. Now, number two, remember property tax, it was California, Texas. Now here on sales tax, you have California and Texas. Texas, yet again. Now, also note that's some of the most people in that state, right? You got the number one and two between California and Texas. About 50 to 55 billion. Now, a lot of that is 6.25% state sales tax and some over 2% as well. So roughly about 8% combined, 8% plus combined rate. Florida, 40 to 45 billion. New York, 35 to 40 billion. And Washington State, which yet again, remember, makes sense. They don't have sales tax there. So this one is, or excuse me, they don't have a state income tax, roughly 30 to 35 billion. So yet again, they're also, Washington is 6.5 state tax, which could go up to about almost 9.5% in certain areas in Seattle. So here you have, check this out, sales tax is pretty high. 3 of the top 5 states are, in fact, they have no state income tax. The other 2, which is California and New York, oh, by the way, very popular places to live, are also very high. So all I'm thinking about is, can this actually happen? Is this a probable solution if, in fact, our government were to say no property tax? What does that mean for you? Well, when we come back, I'm going to go over if it makes sense, if it can be done, and what that means for you. We'll be right back after a few words. This is Gabriel Shahin, certified financial planner and president of Falcon Wealth Planning. We wanted to offer you a free financial assessment for listening to the show so you can help relate it to your specific situation. We offer multiple services such as retirement planning, where you are today, how retirement looks like, talking about Social Security, real estate, planning, even if you own a business, talking about taxes, not just how to save money today, but also throughout retirement. Talk about investments, making sure you're avoiding those high fees, costs, commissions, and also estate planning and insurance, just making sure you're properly protected if, God forbid, something were to happen. And we're offering 1 to 2 meetings, 1 to 2 hours of our time at no cost. Give us a call. We would love to help. Our phone number is 855-963-2526. That's 855-96-FALCON, like the bird. or visit our website at falconwealthplanning.com. That's falconwp.com for short, and fill out the form fill right there on our site. Welcome back, folks. This is Gabriel Shahin, certified financial planner, and your host of More Knowledge, More Wealth here on every weekend. And we are talking about all important topics of personal finance. And today I thought, let's go over what happens if our government actually gets rid of property taxes. So I talked about the revenue in the first segment of the show, all that fun jazz. But now let's talk about the actual impact it will have. If, in fact, our current administration says for homeowners, we're going to go ahead and remove property taxes for you. Now that sounds fantastic. And is it them helping just the rich again, the homeowners? We all think people who own real estate are wealthy. They do well off. They do great. So imagine them, in fact, saying you no longer have to pay property tax. Well, there's some set of people that are going to go yay, and they're going to save and invest more, which is great. I wonder what that would do to real estate values with no property tax. Might go up, I would think. Then you have to start thinking on the other subset says, yay, woohoo, I have an extra $10,000. And now they're going to go what? Spend it, go on dinners, buy nice things, go on other travel. I don't know, whatever the idea is, it could in fact re-go into the economy. But the question remains, how are they going to pay for those schools, for the police, for the firefighters, for those local government hospitals? Those are good questions. And when you start to look and just the number one way to supplement the lack of income that comes from property tax is going to be sales tax. I'm thinking you're at least going to have to double it. So when you look at some of the states with the highest sales tax that's out there, you have states like, let me look this, I pulled this up, don't you worry. You have, I thought I pulled it up, but it was interesting states here, such as, here we go. You got California, Louisiana, Tennessee, Arkansas, Washington State, and Alabama. These are all places that are close to 10%. 10% sales taxes. So, yes, it could be pretty high. So, well, if they're taking away the property tax, where on some states like California and New York, where it's one of the biggest sources of income, obviously income taxes, but when you take property tax and in fact sales tax, well, you're going to have to conservatively double it or even have a 150% increase, which means your sales tax on items is now 20 to 30%. It can be pretty high. When you go and buy something for $1, it's now $1.30. When you buy something for $100, it's $130. 1,000 is now $1,300. It's interesting if, in fact, this were to happen. But could it work? Yes, it could. And whether you're rich or poor or whatever the case is, you are going to need to spend money. Now, the logic is this: people without a home now have to spend more, right? Because the rich people who had a house no longer pays property tax. But then the reverse logic is people with a lot of money typically tend to spend more, which they would have more sales tax. I'd be curious if they could do a segment on who spends most or what percentage of people pays more of the sales tax. I've seen super rich people that never go out, that do everything in house. They will not be infusing more money into the economy. I don't know. But sales tax is the number one thing that will affect everybody if in fact they were to rule this and have this come out. So keep that in mind. Sales tax is number one. Now, number two is increasing income taxes, the state income tax you're in. If you're in a state with zero, good job. Maybe they make it 1 or 2%. Ever thought about that? But if you're in a state like Arizona that's only 2%, maybe they move it back to 4. Or in fact, you're in California and goes up to 13%, maybe they make it 15%, 20%. You know what I mean? What if it's as high almost as federal tax? Whatever the case may be, these are things that they could be doing. And so increasing the income tax, the state revenue tax could be huge. So be careful what you wish for. And maybe, just maybe, the high income earners will end up paying more than they would with sales tax. So these are, yet again, important things to take into consideration. These can significantly affect it. Now, here's another one that I thought was very interesting. Maybe property tax, which includes the structure and the land. What if they just do a land tax? Huh. They just tax you on the land. These are the things that maybe could go towards schools or uh, projects or roads or whatever the case is. Interesting. Just an idea. Yet again, now you have to start thinking outside the box Because I was talking about earlier the three main sources of income, which are income tax, sales tax, and property tax. But now you're going to have to be more creative if, in fact, you get rid of property tax. Hey, listen, I would love to get rid of property tax, but what does that mean? What is the ramification of that? Like, who? Somebody's going to be a winner here. Who's the winner? Is it the multi-billionaire that owns a lot of real estate? Well, that's a bit self-fulfilling if, in fact, we're talking about President Trump. So I don't know the answer to these. But what I can tell you is that this will help the value of real estate. But another way that they're able to capture revenue, if in fact they were to put this out, would in fact be to adopt a land value on, create tax on that. Another option is, and we see this to some capacity already, is opt to have additional taxation on something like certain assets. This could be a car tax. This can be for travel, tourism. Increase the type of taxes that are out there that would affect everybody. This could be on luxury goods, it could be on jewelry, it could be heck on public parking spots that used to be for free that are no longer. Hey, how interesting would that be if now there's a tax or a cost to go use that local park? These are the things you have to look into and take into consideration. So there's no solution here. There's just ideas of what would happen if, in fact, it were to happen. So it sounds great if you own a house. Who wouldn't want that? But you have to look at the secondary effect. By the way, folks, if you're just joining me, you're listening to Gabriel Shahin, certified financial planner, and your host of More Knowledge, More Wealth on every weekend. We're talking about all important topics of personal finance. Today, we're talking about if, in fact, property tax were to go away. Before we all start screaming yippee, let's see the ramifications of that. So we're going down the list here. Here is one, number 5, tax on luxury or even digital items. And so this could be on cryptocurrencies. This could be on NFTs. This could be on, uh, heck, this could be on art. This could be on yachts. This could be on cannabis. This could be on gambling. This could be on a lot of different things that they will start to tax you on. Like, where do they stop at this point? These are the questions that you have to ask yourself. Like, the current system that we know it in this country would be gone. The idea, of course, is using revenue from the tariffs. But what if it's just not enough? If it's just not enough, you have to find alternatives. And what if, just what if, we now want to have maybe a new president that's involved, maybe a president that's not as tough as this president, not as unfair as this president. And maybe if that's the case, maybe they'll renegotiate the tariffs. Well, that's less revenue for us. Who is the loser in this situation? We become the losers, or they just bring back property tax. I really don't know. But what I do know is that there are substantial impacts that can happen from this. And so we're just going down the list. Also, how about this? Enhanced state revenue for certain aid programs. Now, what does that mean? Now they were to increase, and they do this in the state of California, where our gas is some of the most expensive in the country. I would argue the most expensive in the country. Okay, but let's think about this. It comes right off our border. Like, why is it so expensive? Because our state puts taxes on gas for the roads and God knows for whatever else there is. I feel like every couple years there's something on the ballot that says they're going to increase the gas tax that much more and it's going to be reallocated for something. I have no idea. They say it's for one and God knows what they're spending it in reality on. That's the problem in government. So, what if in fact they have now taxes on energy, water, gas? Like, you don't know these things. The government can get involved and do this anytime they want, especially if you take, for some states, the most or second most revenue from them in property taxes. Let's continue this fun conversation. What about increased user fees and like just certain cutting expenditures? For example, any federal grants that goes to businesses or grants for people in school. And what if these state mandated schools like Arizona State University, University of Arizona, these are some of the biggest universities in Arizona that a majority of people go for undergraduate degree in the state of Arizona, where now they're going to increase tuition 50 to 100% because property tax went away. Well, it's not their fault. They don't own property tax. They never got a benefit for it. Let's just pray their parents are paying for their school. You get what I'm saying? Like this runs deep, and talk about drama there. Talking about us new generation paying for the old generation, them getting the benefits and us getting nothing. Oof, that would be annoying. Now, hey, I still think of myself a little young, maybe not young as a college person going to school, but still for somebody in their 40s, that matters. Continuing the conversation is this: there is no right answer. Quite frankly, I would say there's no winner. There's only a loser in this proposition, especially if you don't know what you're getting yourself into. And the problem is, none of us will really know the true ramifications of this. Even if it was clear to us today, it doesn't mean the current situation is going to stay stagnant forever. It's always going to change and it always needs to evolve. So, this is where you need to dig deep and understand more than just your situation. We have to understand the true ramifications. This is where I always say you have to get enough information, accurate information, to make an educated decision. This is true financial planning. This is true wealth management, is understanding what is here today and how it impacts you tomorrow. This is planning at its finest. That was a fast show, folks. I want to thank you for tuning in with us this weekend. You can always reach out to myself or any one of our colleagues here at Falcon Wealth Planning. Our phone number is 855-963-2526. That's 855-96 Falcon, like the bird. Or visit our website at falconwealthplanning.com. That's falconwp.com for short, where you can go and visit our Knowledge Center, which redirects you to YouTube. We have over 1 million views, folks. And if you want us to discuss anything on YouTube, on the show, whatever, send your inquiry to radio@falconwp.com. That's radio@falconwp.com. And if you want this episode, any one of our previous episodes, you can go on podcast, Spotify. We have them all there. And folks, we want to thank you for your trust. We want you to feel free and feel comfortable to reach out with any questions that you have. I want you to have a fantastic weekend. Have a great week, and God bless.